Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at a paper that really gets at one of the biggest questions in science. You have these two great mysteries.
The two black boxes.
Exactly. On one side, the brain, the gray box, and on the other, modern AI, the true black box. And we've always kind of assumed they work in totally different ways.
Biology versus math, right. But this new study from Nature Communications just throws a huge wrench in that idea.
Right. The paper's led by Dr. Ariel Goldstein, and they found something called temporal isomorphism between LLMs like GPT-2 and the brain.
Which is a very academic way of saying something pretty mind-blowing.
It means they're not just getting similar results. They seem to be mirroring each other's process, the actual step-by-step dance.
The temporal choreography, as the paper calls it, is like,
Yeah.
despite the different hardware, silicon versus neurons, they may have stumbled onto the same operating system.
But before we get to the results, we have to talk about how they did this, because this is where most brain studies fall short.
You mean fMRI?
Yes, fMRI. It has this massive shutter speed problem. It takes a picture, every 2 seconds?
Roughly, yeah. And language happens in milliseconds.
Right.
So using fMRI for this is like trying to understand a ballet by looking at a single blurry photo. You miss all the movement.
So Goldstein's team did something else. They went invasive.
They used electrocorticography, ECOG. This is data from epilepsy patients who already had electrodes placed directly on the brain for treatment.
Which gives you millisecond level precision. And here's the cool part. They didn't play them boring lab sounds.
No, they have them listen to actual podcasts.
This American Life and the Moth specifically. So it's real, continuous narrative speech.
Which is so important. So they have this amazing brain data, and then they compared it to the internal math of GPT-2 and Llama 2.
How did that comparison even work?
They did it layer by layer. An LLM is like a stack of processing layers, right? They found a stunningly linear alignment.
Okay, break that down for us. What's the timeline?
So in the first 100 milliseconds or so, the AI's early layers, the ones just processing raw sound, they line up perfectly with the brain's primary auditory cortex.
Just the basic sound.
Just the sound. Then you go a bit deeper into the AI's middle layers, and you see the activity in the brain shift to the superior temporal sulcus.
And that's where sounds become words.
Exactly. But the real kicker is in the deep layers.
Okay.
Once the AI gets to its final layers, say 300 to 1,000 milliseconds later, the brain activity pops up in Broca's area and the temporal pole. That's where meaning is constructed.
So the computational depth of the AI is basically a map for the processing time in the brain.
They are climbing the exact same ladder of abstraction. It seems they're using the same mechanism to do it.
Which is prediction.
Prediction.
Yeah.
We all know LLMs are just next token prediction engines.
Yeah.
This study strongly suggests the brain is too.
So this gets to the idea of surprisal, right? The brain isn't just listening, it's constantly betting on what's coming next.
Yes, and the data showed it perfectly. Before a word is even spoken, the brain is already generating probabilities, just like the AI. If the word it hears was predicted,
The brain just kind of relaxes.
it relaxes. But if the word is unexpected, if it has high surprisal, you see this huge spike in neural activity.
Which explains why context is so important. If I say I'm going to the bank, your brain is already weighing the odds of whether I'm in a riverbank or a
Financial bank.
Yeah.
And that shared mechanism is where the practical implications get really exciting, specifically for brain-computer interfaces or BCIs.
Because right now, most BCIs for, say, paralyzed patients are motor-based.
Right.
They try to decode how a person is trying to move their lips.
Which is incredibly clumsy. This research suggests we could just bypass the motor system completely. We could map brainwaves directly to the AI's meaning-based layers.
So you're not reading muscle commands anymore. You're reading the internal thought itself.
Pretty much, you're reading the meaning.
It creates this wild neuro-AI feedback loop. We build the machine to understand us, and now the machine is the best tool we have to decode our own minds.
It does make you wonder. I mean, are we just very complex biological prediction engines?
That is the big question, isn't it? And for anyone listening who wants to dig into that, the researchers actually released the full data set.
Which is fantastic for open science.
It is. It's on Open Neuro called the podcast data set. You can download the actual neural data and run your own models against it.
We'll leave you with this final thought. As you're listening to us sign off, your brain isn't just hearing these words. It's actively, statistically, predicting every single word we are about to.
Thanks for joining our deep dive.